call out people's names?
No, in terms of the, do you want me to do the timing on the agenda?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this is our call to order, everybody. Happy day. Good to have you here. Ashley, could we lean into you, please, for a roll call, and we'll just kick right into business.
Yep, sounds good. I
Thanks.
see Belinda, Brooke, Digit, Lola, Davey, Rena, Jim. Yep, everybody's here.
Great. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, no, not a problem.
And Doug, do you have a second? I'm not seeing if we threw this in, but do you have a second just to give us a brief update on status of incoming or upcoming board members?
Yeah, I can do that. I was going to do it in the director's report, but I can do it now
then.
or
do it then.
in a few minutes.
Do it then. All right. Shall we move directly into public comment? We'll just try to keep and capture all the time we can for extended conversation. Everybody recognizes the recording and transcription has begun. So at this time, is there anybody present that would like to offer any public comment? Ashley, do we have anybody that signed up to offer
I
any?
did not receive. I did not receive any email about any.
Okay. Look at this, 103. I'm going to move right into review of the agenda, shall we? We'll do an adoption of minutes. So if you have a second to call up the draft minutes that were on Ashley's email from this morning at 10:57 a.m. We'll do that in a second. We'll need to have we'll leave time for quick discussion and then a call to accept, and the second motion will be needed. We'll lead into Doug for director's report. Doug will continue. Doug, I think we had a little talk about maybe we'll hold off on data and reporting until next time, but we can give just kind of a preview of what's to come.
Okay.
I would like to lead the what is known at the Oregon Career Information Systems group as the Zeran Forum. I'll give a little explanation as to what that is, and then we'll do some sharing. So for you to prepare for that is a chance for us to partner up and think about the programs that we're involved in that can be kind of threaded across the state to share with one another. A project that you're working on with your programmatic work, with your job responsibilities, with your service engagement, or something that you know of that you'd like to elevate to this crew so that we can find these threads and start weaving that kind of as a tapestry of Oregon Youth Works across the state. So it's a chance to share your personal work or work that you're associated with others and look for those interconnectivity opportunities. We've got some awesome staff reports coming up from Stephanie, Brian, and Hillary. We'll do a quick run through on the bylaws, and we're seeking to have a motion to accept. And we have special guest, Senator Golden, along with Jeff Parker, to discuss Oregon Conservation Corps budget discussion issues. Then we'll do next steps, all with the purpose of being efficient, but not moving through things too quickly. Would you please always throw a hand up, either virtually, physically, or interrupt the flow with a request to share things, and especially when there's any need to do some deeper learning so there's full understanding of what's happening or what we're moving toward. So don't hesitate to do that. Always fill the chat up, and we'll lean on Ashley to do a kind of a call out loud if there's something in the chat that we miss as we're moving through. All right, any questions from anybody on the agenda for today? Okay.
Hey, Jim, this
Yes.
is Doug.
Doug.
I noticed on my screen it says a meeting guest popped up. I don't know who that is, but if somebody has just joined.
I don't see.
Was that Todd? He wasn't on previously.
I see a Robin Brandt in the chat. Or not in the chat, but in the meeting.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm showing one other one, but it could just be, who knows? It's in theater mode, so Teams is weird.
All right. Excellent. If we could move to the item then, adoption of August 8th minutes. If you've got that up in front of you, if you've had a chance to review it, this is the open discussion period.
I'll move to accept the adoption of the August 8th minutes as presented.
Thank you, Rena. Is there a second?
I'll second
I'll
it.
second.
Oh,
Excellent.
sorry.
Multiple seconds. Thank you. With that, may I hear I forget my Robert's rules exactly, but all those in favor of accepting the minutes, please say aye or raise your hand virtually. I'm seeing lots of hands raised. All right, Ashley, I think we're good. I just love Todd's photo because no matter what I do when I'm in the meeting with him and it's his photo, he's always happy with me. I love it.
You can
fantastic.
see it and we can't because it's internal to heck.
Really? Oh, it's a great
Yeah.
smile. It's a great smile. I love it. All right. Doug, may we lean to you, please, for director's report and a little what's to come with data and reporting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great, thanks.
And I'll keep it fairly tight today. The first thing is our office director, Julia Steinberger, is out on leave through January. I'm not going to get into any of the details, but please know she's okay. This was a planned absence, so she is out. And in her place, Miranda, and then Kurt Tackman, who some of you may or may not know, they're serving as, try to get the title correct, co-office directors while Julia is out. So Miranda just had like 3/4 of another job dumped on top of hers. So thank you, Miranda, for being here. You've got a lot going on. With our legislative concepts, people have started asking some questions. The process is still moving along. It's a long process. Right now, our agency is working with the Legislative Council over at the legislature, just trying to fine tune what those concepts are. Really, the only content that involves YouthWorks is really around some statutory cleanup, some modernization of terms such as removing the word at risk, and just some small tweaks to policy. So there's nothing to get super excited about. It's important rewording that's happening, but it's nothing that is really major at this point. And then I think since we met last time, since we didn't meet last month, there's a new-ish, I'll say, workforce, labor, and education policy, or higher education policy advisor to the governor. Her name is Sarah Foster, and we were pretty excited that she was hired for the position. She's extremely knowledgeable about all of our programming here at HEC. So happy to hear that she was brought on board. Jim, you'd asked about board membership. I'm looking and I don't see Raina, so we'll have a Rena and a Raina. So we'll have to keep that straight in our spell check notes. But Raina is a director from Portland Youth Builders up in Portland, and I'm super excited to have him come on. He's put his application in. It's been forwarded to the governor's office. It's with Ashley Wright in her capable hands now, and we'll see where that goes, but certainly anticipating hearing something hopefully positive towards the end of the month. That leaves one open position if we were to be fully staffed. The way that the statute's written is we can have from 7 to 12. We're currently, if Raina comes on board, we'll be at 11. And looking across the state, just geographically where we are, and looking at kind of that rural and metro balance, and just trying to bring in all the different resources and areas of expertise that are required in the law. We have reached out to someone down in Eugene area at Connected Lake County. We'll see what happens with that, but those conversations are going to continue next week. So we'll have more to share. And then the data. So the data discussion is something that's been brought up. At the last meeting, we didn't have up-to-date data. It's hard to collect and to know when to collect data. I mean, we collect it on the state's biennial calendar, so we're collecting it with a due date of June 30th. We're either getting it reported to us either quarterly or every 6 months. So we do have up-to-date data. I went in and started to put something together to try to have a complete packet for folks, as we were going to just barely touch on it today as kind of a teaser, and let folks know that Jim and Brooke and I, last time we met, talked about data being one of the main things that we discuss at our next meeting. And not only just looking at what we have, but looking at what we don't have, and where we should make some changes. So that's there. We'll have something to send out to you before that next meeting, but know that we are working on it. The thing that I found the most frustrating, and I know it to be true, but until I actually had to try to compile it, it just became very obvious that it's hard to come up with a full annual report, if you will, of all of our programs, because we collect different data for each of them. There's some common data across the board, absolutely, but we're not collecting number of acres treated for risk reduction for fires in all of our programs. That's one. We're not looking at TANF data for everyone. We're looking at that for one. So it's hard to try to put together in a cohesive report that makes sense when one program may have 2 pages of data and one other program may have 1 page of data. So to try to figure that all out, and I think that's really probably taking that confusion. That's a great place to start the conversation for you all next month, to talk about what are we collecting, why are we collecting it, what are we doing with it. And I think it should also be very evident that the information that we collect is real time. It's now in the present. It's not 5 years out. How are folks doing? What did they do with their lives after being in one of these programs? So that's another discussion that we need to have as well, to figure out how we make that happen in the future. So Jim, is that enough? Does that make you happy?
I can't hear you, Jim.
I hit the cough button. Apologies. Yes, Doug, that's fabulous. Can I leave it open, please, folks that have questions regarding data and reporting, that brief share, as well as anything else that Doug shared out?
I did see some. Oh, go ahead.
I just had a question, Doug. So is the primary use of the data, are all programs reporting to the HEC, or are there other reporting requirements? So I know with WHEO it goes to the HEC and then it goes to Department of Labor, but I don't know where OCC data goes, for example.
So sure. So that's a good question. And again, that's all over the board. Let's start with the DHS agreements, and we're collecting that data, yes, but it's also going back to DHS so that they can determine if we've met contractually what we had agreed to do. Oregon Youth Corps data, it's interesting. Even clear back in 1987, when the program was created, there was no specific reporting criteria mentioned anywhere, and it's kind of been that way to date. There's traditionally been an annual report that goes out that we send to legislators, we send it to the governor's office, we send it out to the program providers, but it's not mandatory by any means. For Oregon Conservation Corps, there is a mandatory reporting requirement. Once a biennium, we have to report to the appropriate legislative committees and to the governor's office on the expenditures that we've made in the program. And then the OYEP data just comes really directly to us. Is that helpful, Rena? Okay.
Any other questions?
See Belinda's hand.
Okay, great. Oh, Belinda, please. Thank you.
Yeah, Doug, I know, I believe Hillary is on here too. Just, do we have the breakdown by income, or to hit any of our Justice 40 goals there for underserved and underrepresented communities? I think in our report last year, we didn't break out the Native American youth that we were serving in OCC. So I'm just wondering if we have that breakdown for our tribal youth, our Latino youth, and then of that income threshold.
And Hillary, if you're able to answer, you'll give a better answer than I. I do know that the demographics are asked for. I don't know if it's going to be as specific as what you're asking for, Belinda. I mean, I think it might show up as one of the barriers is that there's a, a low, it's not even called low income, economic hardship or something is the name of the category. But I don't know if it'll dial it down that deep. And a lot of the demographic information is voluntary rather than mandatory by law. So Hillary, if you could give anything more precise than that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, so right now we use demographic or we use racial and ethnicity labels as determined by the HEC data and reporting or R&D, research and data department. So we do collect that data for all of the state programs, the state funded programs. So that's OCC and OYC. And then OYEP leans into the same type of model that is set through DOL with WIOA reporting. We didn't collect income thresholds or necessarily dollars earned per participant. Last year with OCC, we do collect, to Doug's point, if folks are coming into the program and self-report that they have economic hardship, but that is not based off of a Justice 40 or any particular qualification. It is a self-selected thing that we have a definition for, but that the youth report themselves. We do have, if you are, I mean, I could only speak to OCC. If you want me to pull up what our summary was last year for demographics served, but that isn't inclusive of all of the YouthWorks programs.
Thanks, Hillary.
So what I'm trying to get at, and maybe it's just our program, but the tribal breakdown. I mean, because we're serving intertribal youth, and are we capturing those numbers? And I'm asking because in the school system, there was never enough numbers of tribal youth in the public school system to get the breakdown that we needed to see whether or not they were making it through school or not. So I'm just wondering if we're collecting that data so that it's meaningful for the tribal youth that we're serving, so that we have that breakdown and that we can go to the state or go to Congress or wherever we're going with that number, because it really is having an impact on our tribal youth, and this program is amazing. So how can we show that and showcase that to the state with numbers?
Yeah,
because
so
they're
right
going to look
now,
at
right now, the race ethnicities that we collect are American Indian or Alaska Native, Asian American, Black or African American, Hispanic or Latina, multiple ethnicities, which we don't drill further into, and which captures a lot of people, Native Hawaiian or Pacific Islander, white and not listed.
Okay.
So I think right now the data discussions that we've been having as staff, and that I think that R&D is discussing as well, is how do we better pull information, especially from the multiple ethnicities side, to better capture what people are, who is coming into our program, essentially.
Jeremy, I
Thank
saw your
you.
hand and then Digit. Jeremy, would you like to speak still on this?
Thank you, Jim.
Just going to echo what Hillary was saying. That's part of the at Oregon Department of Education, the AIAN Success Plan has a really nice conversation around identifying folks who fit the AIAN race demographic, but also they are looking at how do we enhance that and really truly capture through the multiple ethnicities section. That was developed we are not interconnected with that element yet, and that's the conversation we're looking at with our R&D department to see if that's something that our agency is looking at incorporating, or what our place is in that conversation, if we need to enhance and start collecting a subcategory within that multiple racial category to figure out and really truly capture numbers at their accurate level.
To Digit, thank you, Jeremy. To Digit, and then to Brooke.
Yeah, that's what I
Thank
was going
you.
to get at.
I appreciate that, Hillary, Jeremy.
I happen to be at a conference in Portland right now, and this exact conversation came up this week while I was here, and it was interesting because I was talking to, I don't remember who right now, but they were saying that in the state of Oregon, when students check a box, perhaps if they're Latino and Native American, it is not recording the Native American status. It is only recording the Latino status. So there was a lot of misreporting, and I wish I knew which department this person was with. But that's what I wanted to make sure that we have a way to capture additional ethnicities, and that we weren't, for whatever reason, not capturing multiple.
Thank you, Digit. To Brooke, please.
Thank you. I just had a clarifying question, Belinda. For reporting purposes, do you need it by tribal affiliation or just the note that they are Native American?
Just that they're Native American, and it just goes back historically to the schools and not being able to glean that out of any school, public school population, because they were below the threshold of having to report. And so if you didn't have more than 3% in a public school system, I could never get the Title IX Indian education reports, because they just did not count them. And so I just want to make sure that we're counting the Native Americans, because above and beyond any ethnicity that we serve, the tribal sovereign nations have a special place within the state, and they're not just any ethnicity. So I don't know what we can do, or if we can fix that, or if we're being able to really promote that within the state government, because I think it's important.
Thank you.
Great conversation, everybody. I'm going to check with Doug, Hillary, Jeremy, and the remainder of the staff, please. Do you feel like you've heard clearly what you might need to design an essential question and look at current data and reporting, and come back to us at our next meeting with kind of a summary of what you know and what could possibly be done moving forward?
I think we could probably commit to coming up with a basic framework to start the discussion next month.
Okay.
But I think to have it completely dialed in like that, Jim, it's going to take some time, and it's going to, we hope it takes the involvement of the board. We'd really like the board to help drive this discussion.
Excellent. So not to the point of having any full data reports, but knowing the framework of what exists and what questions could be elevated.
Yeah, and we can give you some current numbers and some current statistics as well.
Super.
Because we have that, but it'll be a little bit piecemeal.
Okay. Can may I check in with the entirety of the board? How does that feel to everybody as a next step? Okay, super. Belinda, thank you for elevating that question. Thank you to all for the succinct answers and engaging in that robustly. We're just a few minutes ahead of schedule. Are there any other questions for Doug based on director's report and or data and reporting? I'm gonna do my middle school teacher counting to 10 in my head. Now that I've told you, you're wondering, is he on 3 or is he on 7? All right. With that, let's move into the Zeran Forum. So Zeran was a member of the Oregon Career Information Systems board for many years, and was constantly working the edges of the room, talking to people and have these really long conversations. And oftentimes they had to call him back to the table and interrupt his side conversations. And finally, what they did was they just said, okay, let's all do this together. So it's each individual's opportunity here to take some time. And since we're still kind of in our infancy, as it were, I'm going to share with you really quick my screen. I did send out to Ashley's email, copied everybody on the action plan as well as the bylaws, just so you have those for quick opening and reference. But I would like us to just reflect briefly on the first 3 months. So board formation, we just heard today that we're essentially one person away from a 12 person board, which is exceptional for a first startup. Recruitment, we'll lean into Doug maybe by close of the meeting if we need to do any further discussion around recruitment for that 12th position. We have our leadership and operations coming into position in place. We have a very strong meeting schedule, which, thank you to all of you, has meant meeting monthly rather than quarterly so that we can be in a position collectively and individually to respond to the long-term legislation session that's coming up. So feel like we're getting our feet under our ground quite well. So please ask questions and elevate issues that we can bring to Doug and team so we can be ready to support them and to support the work of the board in ledge session. We've had some shares on civics and I would ask you to think about that if you have any outstanding questions. And then our 3 to 6 months, which is where we're just entering into right now, strategically align and sustainably fund youth workforce development programs. I think it just keeps coming into our conversation. So partner mapping is really the essence of the Zeran Forum, is understanding who we are, what we do, and what programs are out there that we can interconnect with one another. We'll get involved in program assessment and alignment strategies. So I offer you that to say that the Zeran Forum is really about partner mapping, about understanding each other well. If you see me looking this way, it's because I'm taking notes, particularly on the things that you all are sharing. What I'd like to do is we're going to go for half an hour. Going to take a quick break at the top so that we're all able to sit and be present with Senator Golden and Jeff as they join us at 2:30. So with 30 seconds left, I'd like to start with members of the board, and I'll first ask, as a good middle school teacher, does anybody want to volunteer first and share and do a reintroduction? So as we continue to get to know each other, reintroduce yourself to the team, tell us where you're at, what you're doing, and could you highlight one programmatic effort that's taking place for you or your programs or with a partner that you're working with that you think could become an interconnected part of all the work that we do? So is there a volunteer who would like to go? We'll go board members first, and then we will go into those guests that are with us who are not presenting later. Looking for a hand. Paula, thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Paula Escobedo Rambo, and I am the supervisor for the Columbia Gorge Youth Connection here in Wasco County and Hood River. So that would be Hood River and the Dalles, and then little towns all around in Wasco. So my program houses youth outreach workers, or for an acronym, YOWs, at high schools, elementary schools, and middle schools. So our program has caught on fire, in the lack of a better thing to say. We are growing significantly. I am now at a total of 13 schools and going. So one of the things that we do that I really like is we have been partnering with OICC for like jobs and during the summer. So we do summer youth employment program. And this is a really great program for our youth that are in high school that need their first job. Maybe, you know, they're going to learn how to write their resume and all these things. The great thing about this is that where we're spreading is in the state of Washington. So where I live, we literally, there's Washington right there. I can see it. It's amazing, but it is an amazing program, and I want to do something similar to that, where we can do soft skills and teach kids those kinds of things. So just kind of mirroring what we do and really using what we have established already is just really amazing. What we've done here in Oregon, knowing that Washington is like, yeah, that's what we want to do as well. And we want to help kids too. And please, you know, come to our schools and stay here and help our kids. So it's a lot of fun. It's really great. And we're just expanding. And as we're expanding in Washington, we're expanding in Oregon as well. So just making sure that what we have established in Hood River, that we're able to do that in Wasco, we're able to do that in Cascade Locks. So camps, SEP, and even make it bigger and better. So yeah, just really trying to spread the goodness, I guess.
Perfect example of a Zeran Forum contribution. Love it. And Paula mentioned a couple things that maybe can guide you as you're thinking, but what is it you do? What we do? I love that. What we do is this. And then I heard how we can possibly connect. So really appreciate that. My ask then would be after you share or before you share, Paula, if you have a link that you throw into the chat so people can do even further deeper dives, would be fantastic. And anything that we end up in that chat will include in the notes of the minutes so people can have that back to go back and reflect. Did I see Digit throw a hand up? All right, Digit, and then whoever's ready next would be great.
Yeah, do you think I could share my screen?
I think absolutely.
I'm going to try something here. Instead of explaining a project that I just worked on, I'm going to show you guys if I can make this work. So I'm going to hope for that while I'm doing that. Oh, good. I am going to tell you, I work for Oregon State University Extension. We have three main goals that we work on, and that is college and career readiness, degree completion, and community vitality. And this project that I would love to show you, entire screen, is a project that I just did 2 weeks ago, and I think it's better watched than explained. If I can get this to share.
Are you getting any notification that you're not able to?
It says choose what to share with Microsoft Teams, and I have my link, and I need to share audio, tab, and then my screen doesn't go down far enough. Hold on, maybe I'm minimized here to say, okay, maybe. Okay, can you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay, good. Now tell me if you can't hear it, because I'm on my screen, so I'm gonna let it play for a second. It's only 1 minute, by the way. It's a short hour video. No, just kidding. Let me know if you can't hear the sound on this, because we'll stop it and I'll toggle that.
Not hearing noise yet. Not hearing sound yet.
Did you hear sound on that?
No sound. Anybody else?
Does anybody know how I can toggle that?
Sometimes you have to, when you go to the share or when you go up into your settings, you have to change it so that it'll play through Teams.
My settings on my video.
Yeah, so if you exit share.
Okay. Sorry, everybody.
Not a problem. If you exit share, and then when you hit share again, there should be an very upper right corner would say include sound.
I got also shared tab audio. Does that sound right?
Sounds like we have different modes.
Hold on. Let me get rid of this. Let me get rid of this. Darn it.
If you could throw the link in, I know that I could possibly.
It's a Google.
Oh,
I'm
gotcha.
afraid you're not going to have access.
All right.
Darn it. Let me try one more. Let me try one more thing. I'll stop this share one more time. Well, darn it. I'll show you the video without the sound.
That sounds good. We can do that.
Sorry. It says share audio tab. It is toggled. Maybe it's toggled the wrong way. Let me try that. Okay, here it is with maybe no sound.
Aviation Day is a hands-on learning event for students to be immersed in aviation careers at the Grant County Regional Airport. From fire, medical, and engineering aviation to unmanned aviation systems, students spent the day having fun in this career development event. Our goal is to put this event on for all Grant County students every year, bringing in presenters from across the state of Oregon as well as Idaho and others, and all different aviation careers. We really look forward to the feedback from the students to see what we can learn to improve for them, as well as from the presenters to hear their feedback on how we can improve the day, because we want them coming back and we want to expand the day for our students here.
So I don't know if you guys got any sound.
Fabulous. We got the sound. It was awesome.
Oh, thank God. Okay, it was just toggled wrong. So that was a first draft of a video, but what I did was put that career day together. It was for I don't know if she said it in the video, but it was for 7th and 8th graders. So I put on different career events like that, for instance, to bring some college and career readiness to students in Grant County. So we do a trades day. We've done a rural health career day. I'm looking to maybe do a natural resource day. But that's just an example of some of the work that I do, exposing students to different careers and then opportunities, connecting educational opportunities to those careers. So that's just an example. It just happened to occur 2 weeks ago, so that's why I took advantage of that.
That is fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. And when that video is ready, if you could send it to Ashley, and we'll include it in kind of the collection of the work of the board.
Sure.
Thank you. Awesome. Is there a volunteer to go next?
I'll go next.
Wonderful.
Rena Langston, Program Director for the Southwest Oregon Workforce Investment Board. We are the workforce board for Coos, Curry, and Douglas counties. And so we do receive WIOA youth funds through the HEC, and those funds we subcontract to our youth providers, who currently we are contracting with Area Youth Alternatives, serving Coos and Curry counties, Workbox that serves Douglas, Coos, and Curry, and Phoenix School of Roseburg that serves Douglas. So that's for our regular WIOA youth funds. Internally, so it has a program known as Recruit Hippo, where we employ 6 talent advisors that are in all of the high schools in our 3 counties. So they work with the schools to do internships for credit with youth. They put together a lot of industry tours. They do in-school guidance on career opportunities, and they do a lot of soft skills training with the youth. The HIPPO staff also administer the OYEP dollars because we do have a contract for that. So they do a lot of work with businesses and do work experience placements with those youth. We have contracts with Department of Human Services serving TANF youth. So either teen parents or youth that are on their parents' TANF grants for work experience activities. And just recently received a grant. We haven't got that one rolling yet, but it is specific to foster youth, and it would be work experience opportunities paid for foster youth. So we have a variety of youth programs that we're operating right now.
This is wonderful. All right. I don't know if I'm getting excited because I'm feeling connections with all these. It's fabulous. Let's keep it going. Who wants to go next? Dave, it's you.
I can go. Davey Pearson. I'm out in Bend with Discover Your Forest. I'm the Volunteer and Career Pathways Program Manager. So Discover Your Forest, we're the friends group to the Deschutes National Forest, the Ochako National Forest, and the Crooked River Grassland. And one of the main things that I do in my position is partner with the Forest Service to host internships. Particularly, some of our main ones are like fisheries, ecology, and wilderness. After an intern completes one of those programs, they are eligible for a hiring authority that's valid for about 2 years. And I think Belinda has spoke to some of these as well. I can't remember. But I think Belinda may have some similar programming in that respect. But yeah, a lot of outreach, recruitment, onboarding, and admin. And when I'm not doing that, I'm managing the volunteer program.
Love it. I've heard multiple people say things, and now I'm wondering, Davey, with any of your work, as your folks are doing internships, are they in remote or rural regions where they're car camping or tent camping or roughing it basically in that internship work? So for yourself and those who've already gone, do you have those kind of scenarios where during work experience, folks are in that situation?
Yeah, so it kind of depends season by season, but we do usually each of the programs have 1 or 2 trips throughout their season where they'll do 1 to 3 nights. We usually don't do super long periods of time, but yeah, it just kind of depends. Like sometimes they'll do night snorkeling surveys in the fisheries program, or they'll do overnights in the wilderness program.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you all that have spoken so far on the work you're doing. Next volunteer. Anybody want to go?
I'll go.
Wonderful, Belinda.
Yeah, Belinda Brown, Tribal Partnerships Director with Lomacatsi Restoration Project. And I just really thank Hillary and Jeremy for coming down on October 1st for our Oregon Conservation Corps graduation of our Intertribal Youth Corps. So that was a very celebratory day. And it was very special because we had the Corps Network out. We're a member of the Corps Network, and they actually were doing accreditation with us for 2 days. So September 30th and October 1st, and they got to experience that graduation, which was really heartfelt for them. Seeing the youth, meeting the youth out here. They're from Mississippi and Georgia. So never been to the West Coast before, and they really loved it. So we had that at the Running Y Ranch. We also have been implementing the DHS YEP program. Sequoia HIMSA has been running that program, and that's the 18 to 24-year-olds that actually have children, or they're in the SNAP program, 18 to 24-year-olds. And we're going to do more outreach, and we're putting 12 youth through that program, and we have already put through 3 so far. That ends in June. In March, we received the U.S. Forest Service Indian Youth Service Corps multi-regional agreement that covers Washington, Oregon, and California. And we are right now uploading hours into the Forest Service portal. It was a meeting I was on before I jumped on this one. This is our first upload into that portal that gains the participants the 640 hours that they need for Public Land Corps Hiring Authority. So in March, we became a Public Land Corps Hiring Authority partner with the Forest Service. And then in April, we became a Public Land Corps Hiring Authority with the Department of Interior for the Indian Youth Service Corps. So we have a master cooperative youth agreement with the National Park Service. We can work in national parks across the nation. And just recently went out to Idaho for City of Rocks and for Craters of the Moon, and we'll be working out there in November. But meanwhile, this last summer, we partnered with the Oregon Natural Desert Association and ran the Tribal Stewards program that included the John Day fossil beds. So we're going to be uploading participant hours in 2 portals, the National Park Service portal, and that's due the end of November, and then the U.S. Forest Service portal, and that's due the end of this month. So both of those agreements going on, those agreements cover, our first one was Mount Hood National Forest, and that's already finished. That was a $100,000 agreement. We're working in the Willamette And then on the Fremont Wainema, under the Replant Act, of course, here in the Rogue River Siskiyou, although they turned down Indian Service Corps dollars of $50,000 last year, we continue to have the Intertribal Youth Crew work on the Rogue River Siskiyou, and I believe that is it for us. Thank you very much.
That is fantastic. Thank you so much. So I'm hearing if anybody needs to connect on big system federal connectivity, Belinda, the expert on that. Fantastic. Wonderful. And is there any, Hillary put in the chat, the graduation, were there videos or photos captured of that graduation? That's always a joyous thing to see. Wonderful. We'd love to see that and share that. Okay. Thank you, Melinda. Somebody ready to go next before I go down the list?
I can go.
Wonderful.
I'm Brooke Brownlee. I'm the Senior Manager of Labor, Workforce, and Community Engagement at Portland General Electric. And I am also the Executive Director of the Oregon Clean Energy Workforce Coalition, which is a group of organizations from across the state that are dedicated to building an equitable and inclusive clean energy workforce. And I'm going to talk about one of the things we're doing in the coalition. So we have received, PGE received some funds on behalf of the coalition through the Department of Labor. And we are building out a website that will be focused on all of the clean energy jobs that are available within the state. And the focus will be kind of interests versus jobs. And I say that because I joke that most people, when they're, most kids when they're 7 are like, I want to be a wind turbine technician. That's not really something that people say, but they may say that they like heights or, they like to travel or things like that, which are qualities of that type of job. And then it'll take people through kind of a survey, and then it'll show them jobs within the clean energy sector that use those skills that they've identified that they like to use or want to use. And then it'll show them what the next step is. So whether it is a union apprenticeship program or a community college program or whatever it is in order to get that job, and then also highlight the employers that hire for that job in the state. So we're very excited about it, and I think it's going to be an amazing tool and resource for youth and for older folks who are looking to try new career pathways and people who are just interested in the sector overall. And then we're also working on a campaign that will specifically engage with youth and trying to make the clean energy sector seem cool, because it is cool, but I think a lot of people don't think about it as a cool job. So that's kind of the next step in our work.
Fantastic. Thank you. I'm excited to see the pathways. How does Jim go from being afraid of heights to being a wind turbine mechanic? That'd be fun.
I mean, it is an in-demand job, I will say.
They are my favorite videos on the web. That's for sure.
They're very cool.
Fantastic. I think Brian is not with us today, if I'm not mistaken. So I think we've had everybody on the team except possibly for Sydney. Yeah. So Sydney, welcome to the team. Tell us about yourself and what you're doing.
My name is Sydney. I'm a student in Portland, Oregon. I go to Franklin High School. And I'm really just here to help provide a student perspective. I also, for some background, did an internship at HEC, not this summer, but the previous summer. And that was a really wonderful experience. I got to look at some grants and be part of the voting process on that, which was pretty cool. And I look forward to all the work that we're going to be doing on this board.
Well, we are glad to have you. And I know my question is, and I'm sure several people's questions are, when I was working with kiddos, I'd say, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I'm not going to ask you that. I'm going to ask you, what problem do you want to solve right now based on what you know, what your life has been all about up to this point? What problem do you want to solve as you join this world of work? Is there something that you're thinking about that you're excited about?
I mean, I know I want to be in public service regardless of where I end up. But and either working in civil or criminal, which is kind of my goal right now, the end goal.
Okay.
To help people, individuals or groups or whoever. Yeah, that's like the best answer I can give on that.
It's perfect answer. The now answer is the perfect answer. Super glad you are with us. And I want to encourage you to please raise your hand, raise your voice. Anytime you have that question, just welcome to the team, and call on us when you need those letters of recommendation as high school wraps up. So glad you're here. That leaves us space. We're 8 minutes ahead of schedule. Oh, I haven't gone. I can go. But before I do, can I check in with any of the staff from OE? Is there anybody that we have presentations coming from a few in a little bit, but anybody that would like to share really quick what you're working on? Robin Brandt.
Yeah, thank you.
You bet.
I want to add that this month is National Disability Employment Awareness Month, and we're having presentations throughout the month about this. I'm going to put a bunch of links in the chat about our services, about vocational rehabilitation services, youth services that start with youth with disabilities as young as 14 and go to about age 21. Benefits counseling, which helps people with disabilities on Social Security disability benefits, help them understand that they can work and still draw down some of those benefits, which are very useful for people with more significant disabilities. And that's about it. Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Thanks for being here. And your sharing that inspires me to raise a question to Doug and staff about how this board can communicate those kind of months of awareness in a way that can really impact people long term. So Robin, thank you for that share. To get this on calendars, and I'm thinking of the Career Connected Learning Network, where broadcasting this information to every elementary, middle, and high school and community college is a part of that network, how we can integrate our systems together. So Robin, thank you for the service that you are doing and for those programs for folks. Is there anybody else that would like to share?
Jim, I don't mind going since I don't have a presentation today.
Thanks, Jeremy. Would you please? Thank you.
Yeah, not a problem. Some of the work that I've been doing amongst outside of grant administration is actually that intersectionality work that you just talked about. Some of the conversations that we're starting to collaborate with and around is with the Department of Education. So I've found myself in conversations recently with Youth Development Oregon around collaboration and their work. The AIA and Student Success Plan and their committee and their work at the Office of Indian Education, and then also with the community health team at the Department of Education to figure out how our systems can integrate and also complement each other's work and plans and existing projects. So some of the work that is starting to have and unpack and figure out where conversation ultimately takes us. And some of this work here will help potentially inform some of those conversations down the road.
Fabulous. Yeah, the more we can weave the threads, right? Stronger it will become. Anybody else? Quick shares? Doing my 10-second count.
I'm happy to share, Jim.
Wonderful.
Since I also don't have a presentation
Hey,
today. Hi, everybody. I'm Miranda Scheiding. I am the program manager and, as Doug mentioned, the interim co-director of OE right now. And in my portfolio, I have not just the Oregon Youth Works body of work, but I also have the Oregon Serves, which includes the AmeriCorps programs. So in some of our federal meetings that we've been attending with the other serves, like national service programs across the country, we've had a lot of conversations around climate corps. So something cool that we have started having discussions with internally under the umbrella that we could do some alignment with our AmeriCorps portfolio and our YouthWorks portfolio is Climate Corps, and thinking about, as Brooke was mentioning, what are career pathways into green jobs and clean energy work and things like that, and what are some of our grantees and programs already doing for this type of pathway, and what can we do to convene these folks together so that we can have discussions and kind of lead what this work looks like as far as our portfolios go. So that's something pretty cool that we're working on. We're still at the beginning stages of it. Last week, Hillary convened a group with our AmeriCorps grant administrator with where Heart of Oregon Corps presented, and they shared how they braid funding between their AmeriCorps portfolio and their YouthWorks portfolio and their other revenue sources. So it's a pretty cool thing that we're having discussions about, and we're thinking about what's next with it. But I thought that was worth sharing with this team too.
Fabulous. Thank you for jumping in there.
Sure. Happy to see everybody today.
So Todd Nell is gonna, every time I'm in a meeting, hey Todd, we should have a working together conference. I'm thinking, this is what I'm hearing from all the people here. Oregon Youth Works and Oregon Youth does work. Working together conference. Just saying. Last call for anybody else who wants to jump in. So grateful for those shares.
Yeah, I'll jump in real quick.
Yeah, Belinda, please.
We're excited about that. We're implementing partner of the American Climate Corps also, and looking to be utilized for a pilot project for AmeriCorps. So we're excited about that. The other thing I didn't update is we are also waiting for a registered apprenticeship program. The forest conservation technician and forest conservation worker job occupations. And so that's under review right now also, but we're looking forward to that American Climate Corps implementing partner opportunity also. Great work.
Awesome. I'm going to steal a minute and 30 seconds and share quickly on a passion project in my world. Of course, I'm Jim Taylor, disaster recovery. When I say, of course, I'm Jim Taylor, I didn't mean that. Of course, I come from the world of disaster recovery. So I am Jim Taylor. I work in disaster recovery, used to be an educator. And so very intricately and intimately involved with education programs. At disaster recovery, discovered a massive gap in construction trades able to respond to rebuilding after fires. Began a program with multiple agencies, WTDB, HEC, CCWD, Oregon Department of Ed, Oregon Housing, now partnering very closely with Department of Human Services. Team Oregon Build is now 90 high schools with over 5,000 individual students in 12,000 building experiences. Oh, I didn't share my screen. My goodness. Sometimes I am a squirrel, if anybody hasn't caught on to that yet. Okay, so Team Oregon Build. I'll throw the website into the chat if you ever have a chance, if you ever want to get involved in a conversation, reach out. 5,000 kiddos, over 12,000 experiences, 90 schools involved. The website's fabulous. There's an amazing video on there, lots and lots of photos to see kids in action, all meant to inspire students to pursue the construction trades, as well as to get into disaster and crisis readiness, response, recovery, and resilience experiences. I share all that to share with you these amazing teachers who are doing incredible work. Can you see a professional development page by chance? Somebody could verbalize for me.
You are sharing the presenter view of that, but we can see it.
It's going to have to do. All right. So
that's good.
We had, let's see, we had 20 plus people in Klamath Community College. We had 30 plus folks at Lane Community College in July. We had 45 folks at Lane Community College in August. We had 22 folks, including a wonderful group from the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation, who brought their workforce development and youth education program together. And now these 16 high schools plus CTUIR are working together to rehouse folks in the Eastern Oregon fires. And we hope to see them expanding that as much as possible. So again, 90 schools, 90 educators through the professional development this summer, and working with FEMA, with DHS, with programs across the state and country to continue to try to expand this opportunity. And thanks to Brooke and making connections through this work together, we had a chance to present to the Clean Energy Coalition and making connections on how to create these as micro models for discovering green and eco-building practices, as well as clean energy sourcing for the units when they're out in the field supporting people who are going through some of the worst days in this recovery process. So thanks for letting me share. I jumped us 2 minutes into our break, and that means we're going to get 13 minutes off, and we're all going to be back at 2:15 if that sounds good. That was our first official Zeran Forum. Thanks everybody for the wild ride. Okay, see you in 13 minutes. All right, I'm coming back on just to give a 1-minute warning. So if people can hear me in the background, we're gonna get right to it at 2:15. And I don't know about you, but the change in weather, I'm drinking a lot more coffee and eating a lot more chocolate. So that's what I indulged in the last 10 minutes. And we've got Stephanie, Brian, and Hillary going to share with us. And just as a reminder, we've got Senator Golden coming in at 2:30. And so I'm going to, if you're all right with this, Brooke, say that we jump the bylaws to post Senator Golden and Jeff conversation so we can give a full 15. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. It is 2:15. Did you all nose goes already on who's going first? Doug, do you have a plan on who's going to share in what order?
I don't really have a plan, but if Brian and Steph are in good service because they are calling from on the road, maybe it makes sense for them to go ahead and go while they're connected.
Let's do it. Fabulous. To you, Stephanie and Brian.
Hi, thanks everybody. Can you hear us okay?
We can, thank you. Nice and clear.
Terrific. Yeah, we are on our way back from a visit to Eastern Oregon to visit Eastern Oregon Workforce Board, and we met with Voc Rehab, and we also had a great discussion today with the Port of Morrow and their workforce people as well. It was really nice to get over and hear some of the perspective of what challenges that Eastern Oregon is facing. You know, some of them are the same. You get the transportation, pathways for careers, all that stuff is similar, but they had twists on it that I wasn't aware of, and I think it's worth us looking into. One issue that came up talking with the workforce board, but it also came up at the Port of Morrow, is apprenticeships, and that's a big deal these days. There's a lot of call to really revamp the apprenticeship pathways. They struggle over here primarily with not enough employers with journeymen that can bring on an apprenticeship at the 1-to-1 ratio level. That's it sounds like that's how it should be, but over here they have employers that are like, if we could have a 2-to-1 ratio, we could really get more people into the pipeline to create a skilled workforce over here. A lot of times their youth are leaving and to find an apprenticeship. They mentioned that at the Port of Morrow there were 5 youth in that area. I think it was 5, and there was such a wait list in that area for apprenticeships. 3 or 4 of them went to Boise, where the ratio in Idaho, the ratio is 6-to-1. In Washington is 4-to-1. And that was, 3 years ago. So the other youth that just stayed on the wait list, their buddies, peers, they're almost done with their apprenticeships. And this individual, they're still waiting to even get into one. And they felt, especially over in Eastern Oregon, it's just really hard to keep up with the demand for electricians and other trade labor when they're not being able to grow them, so to speak, at home. Employers are having to bring those with them, which can actually exacerbate some of the other barriers like housing. If you're having to house workers that are coming in to fill these positions, that puts pressure on the local housing market as well. So it kind of adds up over there. So that was something that they were struggling with right now. And we talked to them that we have a maritime grant that is going out. Funding is going out to 5 of the local workforce boards, and Eastern Oregon is one of them. And we were talking to the Port of Morrow. They want to work within that, potentially, if that can be the plan, to expose some of the youth over there to maritime. Over there means fisheries, and the fisheries over there, and the pathways to jobs that over there in the rural areas that not only include a decent type of work and a quality job, but also housing on site. So it can potentially be a barrier reduction for whatever youth or adults that get into those programs. Anybody have any questions about?
Looking for hands, or go ahead and speak up, folks, if you have questions. I think we have a new TV series, The Apprenticeship Dilemma. I know it comes up consistently with WTDB and with several of the members of the board. So certainly a subject that is foremost in front of people's thinking. And we're going to lean into Doug and Miranda and Todd as to how this board could potentially be a voice to engage in that conversation. And especially with all the folks on the screen who engage in internships, pre-apprenticeships, and apprenticeship programs. Rena, question? Great.
Yeah, I was just curious. So I had recently learned that ODOT had a change based on, my understanding was a legislative action that with new state contracts, they are upping the required percentage of apprentices on the job. So, I mean, Brian, have you all talked with ODOT and what this is going to mean for them?
Talked to ODOT. It's probably been close to a year because they have an internal training program for interns, and that was what we were talking about. Haven't talked to them about that particular thing, but that brings up kind of the whole conundrum. Great, that sounds wonderful, but how do we get the Oregonians trained to be those apprenticeships to fill those roles? I was part of a 24-state U.S. Climate Alliance Climate Jobs Task Force recently, and we brought out a governor's initiative of 1 million new apprenticeships by 2035 in climate-type jobs. And that's awesome, but is the pathway feasible to get to that? That's my question.
And to Brooke, please.
Good to see you. I was just clarifying the 1-to-6 ratio in Washington. What craft is that for?
That was they mentioned that as Idaho. They said 1 to 4 in
Idaho.
Washington, and I believe it was electrician, wasn't it? Yeah, it was electrician. And I haven't had a chance to verify that. We had this conversation about an hour and a half ago, but and that, to me, that might be on the other end of the spectrum. Is that too many for to get a quality? But maybe somewhere in the middle or something.
That's a surprising ratio for something that is a life-threatening type of craft.
I thought so too. So I will definitely be digging into that when we get back to the office and just seeing how accurate that number is.
Yeah. Last chance for a quick question for Brian and Steph. Well, thank you to both of you for jumping in and sharing that. And thank you for traveling and learning and growing and helping us grow more with that information. And we anxiously look forward to talking about this apprenticeship dilemma. We'll go to episode 2 next time.
That sounds terrific. And thanks everybody for letting us talk.
Drive safe. Hillary, thank you. We've been side chatting and we have a guest in the room. So we're going to turn to our guest and then we'll wrap up our day with Hillary sharing on the OCC work. And I'm going to pass it to Doug to make introductions, please.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. So we do have a couple of guests with us. With us are Senator Golden from down in Southern Oregon. We have Jeff Parker, who is the Executive Director for Northwest Youth Corps. They've both been really behind the scenes all along to get the Oregon Conservation Corps created and stand behind it and try to find funding for it. And with it not being a part of HEC's budget, they started some conversations with some other partners out in the field to try to figure out what does that mean for the upcoming biennium since there's no money identified. So they would like to really kind of have a strategy on how do we go about fundraising, and fundraising being bigger than just asking for donations. So I think that's probably enough of a queue up. I had mentioned that, if we're going to do that, let's have the board be involved with that. It fits within that in our strategic plan. And so they both agreed and made time to come be with us. So I don't know which one of you wants to kick off, but thank you both, Jeffs, for being here.
Well, thank you for the invitation. I think I'll kick off and go fairly briefly and hand it to Jeff, who I think more than any single individual, is responsible for Youth in the Woods programs in Oregon over the years. My name is Jeff Golden, and I represent Senate District 3, which is much of the Rogue Valley. I also chair the Natural Resources and Wildfire Committee and was real involved in the passage of 762 in 2021, which is, as you probably know, is sort of our landmark broad-based wildfire program. And in that bill was the creation of the Oregon Conservation Corps. And it didn't create a new program. There were programs on the ground, Jeff's at Northwest Youth Corps being the preeminent one, that offered the proof of concept of bringing young people into the woods in teams to learn a set of soft and hard skills. And Jeff's been at it, quite a bit longer than I have. But it was, as part of our wildfire program, it was a big hit. I see Belinda Brown on the call as well from down my way, and has been involved with Lomacotsi for a very long time. And I would say, along with the Jeff's organization and Lomacotsi, have been the prime movers on the ground of the Oregon Conservation Corps. We want it to be institutionalized as permanently part of our wildfire and workforce development programs. We can project a really serious need for workers, for people who know forest restoration, forest resiliency, fire risk reduction skills in the woods. That's got to be, we have to have a commitment to that for a long time in order to get through an era of severe wildfire. I think it really caught on and has been up till now pretty well funded. It was funded in the original bill 762, and then over the next that was last biennium. In the current biennium, I'm afraid that other than the suppression part of the wildfire program, we really, as a legislature, dropped the ball on funding. And the rest of the program, the forest resiliency parts and the community risk reduction, community hardening parts, are terribly underfunded. And right now there's a work group underway organized by the governor, charged with finding a long-term and reliable source of wildfire program funding that is not the general fund, because the pressures on the general fund are so immense. But in that sort of downsizing and that sort of backing off from a commitment to a fully fledged wildfire program, Oregon Conservation Corps got the same level of funding that it did in 762, and that was because of really a remarkable showing at the Capitol of people who support the program, youth, families, parents, employers, industry. It was really quite extraordinary. And in some ways, there's a lot of parts to this wildfire program, and some of it is pretty mundane and nitty gritty. And this program, OCC, offers this just wonderful, I'd call it a threefer, because we're getting a lot of acres treated and made more resilient, made more fire ready. We are really offering youth some career path and a set of skills that they find very valuable. Their testimony's been important. And we are fulfilling what we think, or helping to fill what we think will be an increasing workforce need in the forest restoration area. So we have no reason to be super optimistic going into the next session, because we know how we're in an environment, and I won't really speak to this right now, of huge budget demands that we haven't funded before. And I don't have a clear picture how this is going to turn out, but you can't really take almost any funding for granted for the next year. So besides putting forward a bill that will secure some funding, we're asking for some funding outright, and we're asking for a larger amount that would match philanthropic or private sector giving. we are wanting to really launch a serious fundraising campaign in the corporate sector and the private foundation sector based on the appeal and the proven effectiveness of this program. And Doug has helped with that in the past. I have not committed to the level that I thought I would, and I want to get more involved. But we're going to need a lot of allies, and we're reaching out pretty much everywhere we can to build a team that can formulate a strategic approach to fundraising. Our sense is this would be, for reasons I've said, really attractive to a number of private sector organizations. But as of this time, we haven't secured significant commitments. So that's still work ahead. And we're trying to figure out how to do it smart. And with that, I think I'll hand it over to Jeff.
Hey, thanks, Senator Golden. Thanks for the great words about Northwest Youth Corps and Loma Katsi, two organizations that have been doing this work for many decades. And when you look at the presentation that I think Hillary gave earlier, I wasn't on the call, and the outcomes that are happening from OCC, you realize that there are other organizations across the state that are really leaning into this work and protecting our communities. Not only is it a wildfire issue, but it's a community protection issue, and it's a climate resiliency bill. Just a couple of things real briefly. What is unique about sections 21, 22, and 23 of Senate Bill 762 is exactly what Senator Golden said. It combines and is at the apex of both the workforce challenge, and our wildfire workforce right now is stretched as thin as possible and right up to the breaking point. And then it's also about community wildfire resiliency, which is very different than work that happens on the National Forest System, on the Oregon Department of Forestry lands. We're talking about working in the WUI and even more specifically in the home ignition zone, trying to preserve community integrity, preserve community safety, so that we don't have climate refugees when September 5th, 2020 happens, those types of events, and just absolutely wreak havoc in our communities. So it's a unique bill because it combines those things. And we're in some ways a victim of our own success because we're a great wildfire solution and we're a great workforce solution, but we live in workforce, and so the wildfire people don't think too much about us, and then the workforce people think a lot about us, but they don't talk to wildfire. So the reason it landed in the Higher Education Coordinating Commission was because that it is uniquely structured to run a grant program like the OCC. I'm probably telling you things you don't know, or some things you already know, but as Senator Golden said, that there is a fundraising need associated with it. And the other unique thing about Senate Bill 762 is all the way down in section 62 or 63, it describes what Jeff just said about this matching ability for other monies to be matched by state monies in the interest of OCC. So an account does exist at Oregon Community Foundation to be managed by the Higher Education Coordinating Commission. I'm looking at my friend Brooke here, who was instrumental in helping lead the charge, because in that first biennium there was $1 million that the state had put out there, and we needed to go after and bring philanthropy to the table to match it, and we did. We got it by I think June 29th, at the very latest date, but we were successful in it. And I would say after 3 years of doing this work, we've had great impacts on the ground, great impacts on the workforce, but that's been our focus, and we haven't given enough attention to the generation and development of other funding sources. So I will tell you, right now we have a well-flanked coalition of organizations and community groups, families, and others that are very excited and ready to support a policy bill that we want to put forward that makes some small tweaks to the legislation itself, but also calls for this continued investment. When we first started talking about this, Senator Golden said, it's a tough budget year. We're not in the governor's recommended budget. We can't be in the agency recommended budget. We don't have a POP. And I said, oh, we got them right where we want them, right? Because we've got a great idea, and who doesn't love this thing? And they're going to have to work a lot harder to reduce access to that Capitol building for us to not fill it up with committed people that want to come to testify about the success of this. Where this advisory board can really help us is in that advocacy and post-session promotion of what we hope will be some level of commitment from the legislature and the governor to put monies forward to be matched both by philanthropy and other resources. The thing about the Oregon Conservation Corps is that it is unique in the western states that are experiencing so much wildfire. And we think it's attractive to both federal and municipal resources as well, because it shows the state leading in a way that other states aren't, with a very unique and innovative solution. So again, I'm probably telling you things you already know, but one of the things that's really critical for Senator Golden and myself is that with the establishment of this new advisory board, bringing multiple boards together, I hope, and I think speaking on behalf of both of us, we hope that this will be front and center as we do the work going forward to make sure that we can maintain this innovative program, keep some level of funding. In another conversation, we'll be talking about how to have this be a continuing service level investment because it is so powerful and so successful. That's not the conversation we're at right now. The conversation we're at right now is just sustaining it through this biennium so that we can come back at it in a better budget year and have that conversation. So I'll hand it back to you, Senator Golden. I hope I've done service to what we wanted to do here, but I'm looking at these boxes on this Teams and account, and I know that we've got a ton of advocates, ton of believers, and it's going to take every one of us to get it done this year.
Yeah, for sure. That was all well put, Jeff. I think I would just add that the statistics of this work so far are pretty impressive. You know, I have colleagues. You're right, Jeff's right. Nobody doesn't like this idea. There are those who are slow to see it as a serious contribution to our forest resiliency and fuel reduction efforts. You know, it's not an industrial operation with, you know, the top level equipment that kind of roars through a lot of acres, but it deals with some somewhat difficult to treat acres because it's so close in to the, you know, you don't bring a lot of machinery to it. But it's not a little boutique program that's kind of helping kids, but not really doing much, not moving the needle on forest resiliency. When Jeff produces the stats on acreage and you know looking at the maps, this is real stuff. You know, it's great that, you know, what it's doing for youth is heartwarming and wonderful and really makes a difference in terms of environmental and economic justice. But it's also a serious forest resiliency program. And we sometimes need to make that point. But I think I'll stop there. And Doug, I don't know if we covered the ground for you adequately. And I also wonder if there are any questions or comments.
I think that was great. And yeah, I would open it up to see if there are questions or comments, and I'll flip it back to Jim or Brooke to kind of work through those.
Jim, can I call myself?
Brooke, kick us off, please.
First of all, I love this program. I adore this program. It is an amazing program. I'm wondering what you guys are thinking of in terms of the ask. Are you starting at the 10 million again, or coming in less? What is the thinking there?
We've talked about that a fair bit. You know, you don't want to go in with your last offer. We would like $10 million for this program again, and I believe it's getting well spent. And the environment, what we're hearing about the budget is it could be that asking for that much in straight general fund shows a lack of awareness of where we are statewide, a sort of a lack of seriousness. So this will be two-tier, and there will be an amount, and I know Jeff and other folks at the lead of this have been strategizing, and I'm of the mind that we ought to ask for something like 5 million in general fund, and then the availability of 10 million more to match dollar for dollar private sector giving or non-state source giving. Jeff, I don't know if I let that out of the bag or if that's where we landed, or if should we argue in front of these folks about the numbers, or what do you think?
Let's not do that. I think we're still sort of finalizing the strategy. And everyone here knows that you can go in with nothing on the line, and kind of like, let's have an open conversation. You can go in with a high number, low number. So, to Senator Golden's point, we do want to take the temperature of the room, right? We don't want to go in there and look completely insensitive to the budget reality that we're in. But the other thing that we want to do, and this is sort of our shameless plug to this group here, is that we also want to state very clearly that we're very serious about the philanthropic effort. And so we want to at least put together the outline of a strategic philanthropic plan that we can showcase and say, hey, look, we're just not asking you to put some match money. We've actually have a plan in place that we want to execute as soon as the legislature takes plan. So anyone and everyone that wants to help participate in that project, we welcome. And not knowing, I don't really know the mechanics here. Like, Doug, can they contact you and then you can point them to me or Hillary? I don't know I don't want to step on any conflict of interest roles there. So I'll let you figure out how to get people connected with us.
Yeah, I think if folks are interested, let me know. We'll have to figure it out. And I think just kind of a reminder, because this board is very, very new, we have to be very careful advocating for funds if it's not in the governor's recommended budget or if it's not in our agency request budget. And so that's the power of having someone on the inside of the legislature and then a key point person like Jeff and partners to go out and fight this fight, because at some level our hands really are tied. That said, we can have involvement. We just have to be very careful not to back necessarily a specific POP or LC.
Doug,
yeah,
can I ask a clarifying question there?
Sure.
I understand that there can't be any advocacy from this group for state funds because it's not in the governor's budget. Is there any constraint, as you see it, or sensitivity about effort that folks in this group might want to invest in helping the philanthropic campaign, the private sector end of this?
I think absolutely. I think that's a really good clarifying point, because statute actually points out, and directs that we have a philanthropic portion. So I don't think we get in trouble there. It's a matter of talking with our legislative director, Kyle, to see what his comfort level is. But what I've heard from him so far this year is, so long as we're not raising our flags and saying, hey, support legislative concept 0625 or support POP 306, then we can be fine. We can have those conversations. It's when we actually really stand behind a piece of legislation that is different from what the governor is supporting, where we have to draw the line.
And Doug, for clarifying, you're saying we as in staff of the HEC, right? Not as in individual board members.
As far as
advocating, because I think when I testified last time around, I specifically testified in support of the POP. Maybe I'm misremembering.
It gets goofy. This could be like a 30-minute conversation, I think, of just internal politics within the HEC and who the different advisors are.
Maybe why do we do this? We can get clarification for everybody on the board after we talk with Kyle.
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
We can do that, but when I say we and we talk about the advocacy, especially around the philanthropic piece, that's HEC, that's the board, that's all of it.
I wanted to toss in that one asset we have that I think is really useful at this stage are some really top-notch videos of the program, short videos that both Northwest Youth Corps and I've seen Lomacotzi's too. They have some talented, high production value short videos that show the work and let us get to know the youth that have been involved in the work. And I think it's really impressive. And if, it would be a boon to any fundraising campaign. And I'm sure Jeff would be happy to supply you with some.
Any other questions, folks?
I would just like to say thank you, Senator Golden, for all your work, all your efforts, and Jeff also greatly appreciate it. It's an amazing program, and we know what it's doing on the ground. So hats off.
Well, back to you at Lomacotsi, Belinda.
Senator Golden. Senator Golden, thank you for being here. Jeff, it's good to see you again. Jim Taylor with Oregon Housing Disaster Recovery, co-chairing with Brooke with this group of wonderful humans. We are in our infancy, and I think what you present today to us is an opportunity for us to look at opportunities, because we stated from the onset we want to, since we are new and coming into this with fresh energy, that we wish to be different, and to do so we're going to have to do different things. So I think this is an opportunity to consider how the board could become advocates, and my brain is going crazy already with opportunities to weave things together, because this should not be falling to one agency or to one group of persons to be solving these problems, but collectively, how can we have a greater impact? So board, I'm looking at the action plan as was shared earlier today, and looking at our 6 to 9 month layout, where there's a subsection of advocacy for financial and programmatic sustainability. So and we're meeting monthly, so I think this is potentially a good email conversation thread, as well as a chance to have a deeper discussion. So I'd ask you all to consider your thoughts and feelings around being more at the front of advocacy, especially towards that philanthropic bent, as we are seeing great shifts across the country and internationally with philanthropy responding to climate crises. So again, Senator Golden, thank you for your work. Jeff, thank you for your work and the work of all those folks that are out there in the forests.
Thanks for a few minutes on your agenda today. And I think I'd end with asking folks to reflect a little on who they can think of who might have enthusiasm for this work and might be positioned in one way or another to help us get a serious fundraising campaign going. And Jeff and I'll speak for both of us, I will definitely find time to talk to anybody like that.
Wonderful.
Thank you all very much. Thanks for what you're doing. Thanks for your workforce efforts generally.
Thank you, and you are welcome. We appreciate you. And I think with that, we can return to, could we come back to you, Hillary, and get a share out on all the good things?
Yeah, I did share a couple things related to OCC and what Senator Golden and Jeff were speaking to in the chat as well. So before I jump into my share out about OCC, I will point out those things. Senator Golden referenced that there's a wildfire funding work group to speak to larger wildfire funding needs. I linked to their recent presentation that they gave to the committee on the 24th of September. I shared Northwest Youth Corps' 2024 annual report, which references Oregon Conservation Corps. And I shared also that a link to a letter that the commission itself at HEC wrote and sent into the governor's office in regards to the budget, and they referenced OCC in particular as well. With that, I mean, these guys took the biggest piece of the conversation from OCC, which I appreciate. But I will share a brief presentation, and I'll kind of try to go through it quickly. Are you all seeing the Oregon Conservation Corps?
We are. Yep.
Okay. I will try to go kind of quick. I know it's a long meeting, that you guys have a lot of great work that you're trying to accomplish, and a lot in your brains. But yeah, here's a little bit about OCC. In the original fundraising efforts, we kind of came with the phrase "saving homes, changing lives" out of some of that initial fundraising effort. And this presentation was prepared or at least started by one of the contractors from that original philanthropic campaign. So this was already mentioned. OCC came out of 2021 Legislative Assembly, and really OCC is in its infancy. You hear, we have been able to hear some excellent presentations lately, again on the apprenticeship dilemma, but we've heard some really amazing apprenticeship conversations that I'm just like, oh, wow, that's awesome. And then the question is asked, how long have you been doing this work? And they're like, oh, this is our 12th year. I'm like, oh, well, that's amazing. And you've done a lot in 12 years, but also this is really in technically like year 3 of existing, and we are doing some amazing work. This is Piper on here. Jeremy and I just saw Piper in Klamath Falls last weekend, and I realized she's actually in this presentation twice. So for those that aren't familiar with OCC, it really has 3 goals, which is reducing the risk of wildfire, creating fire-adapted communities, and engaging young adults in workforce training. I promise I will go faster, but a few key points from this slide. This quote from Kai says, "The work in the Oregon Conservation Corps isn't being done in any other way. Fire chiefs and fire stations don't have the human power to do this work, and yet their communities need it." And there are 2 sides to that coin. There is that there's an abundance of work that really needs to be done that Oregon Conservation Corps helps to serve. Whenever there are boundary lines, right, between jurisdictions, that's a particular area where Oregon Youth Corps has been a great partner, right? Like if there's somewhere between Forest Service land and ODF land, OCC can come in and really help some treatments in those spaces. The other side of this is that while there are other funding mechanisms out there to support some wildfire mitigation efforts, to try to get ahead of prevention and response, they don't have the same ability that OCC has, in that we are really training up people that don't currently have the skills. And we see that as a huge asset. We have already seen multiple successes of Oregon Conservation Corps youth participants who have been hired by the Forest Service, hired by the BLM, hired by local fire districts. So the work is already coming to fruition, not only in the treatments that the youth and the programs are accomplishing, but also in the hiring and economic stability that's taking place. There's Jeff. I'll run through this. You guys have an attachment. It's in your packet as well. We really encourage all of the Conservation Corps programs to collaborate with their local fire protective districts, Forest Service, Oregon State Fire Marshal, all those folks, to make sure that where treatments are accomplished, they are in higher priority areas, they are intentional, and it's not just like a splattering of treatments. And we see a lot of success already in how these treatments are really impacting homeowners in really positive ways. Another side of this is that the young people in these programs are also educating all these homeowners about other things that can be done to help harden their homes or protect their homes. And so there's a lot of like community organization and rallying and increase of knowledge to help make these communities more fire adapted as well. Here's an example of a home and what a treatment could look like. And again, before and after. Most of the fuels that OCC crews are able to remove are ground and ladder fuels. However, we do have some folks like Lomacatsi, for example, that are able to remove larger trees as well. But yeah, each program depends on what their goals are and what their also regional job opportunities look like as well. We have some folks up in the Sandy area that are trying to learn a lot about like dense tree removals like this because they have some stronger opportunities with ODOT power and the density of forest around their homes kind of demands like a specified learning for how to safely down a tree in a condensed space. Results from the program are healthier landscapes, stronger resilience to wildfire, workforce training for young people, cleared land, safer land for property owners, and safer communities. Here's a quick, it's kind of still hard to see. So everything yellow on here is wildland urban interface. That is another area that we are restricted to having our treatments take place within. And then here's a kind of count of treatments per zip code. So you'll see the darker places have a stronger number of count. Here's some 23-24 statistics. So that's July 2023 through June 2024, which is 1 year, but half a biennium. We've already seen 264 youth served, over 300 homes and businesses impacted, over or nearly 4,000 acres of treated, 235 sites, and in over 51 zip codes. Some more of our youth participants. Seneca was at the graduation last week with Lomakatsi Restoration Project. Here's a little bit of reported youth barriers that folks include in their data. So we see the largest section of folks report experiencing economic hardship, and then a skills gap, and then an academic gap. But you'll also see that there are quite a few folks in here that are coming into this work with disabilities, have as a parent or someone who's pregnant, somebody who is unsheltered or without a house, or that has experience in the child welfare and foster care system. And in probably every site visit that I go to, one of the youth say that, before this, they were living out of their car, and now they have boots to wear, mentorship, a path in mind of where they could go moving forward. So it's really encouraging and heartening to see the immediate impact on these young people's lives. On top of having that stability economically and physically, you see a lot of folks leaving this program or coming into this program and getting to finally experience a sense of belonging, which is also a protective factor for our young people. Okay, I tried to make that as fast as possible, and my computer was spazzing out a little bit. So that's a brief overview of what OCC is, if anyone wasn't already aware. The funding is a critical piece. I'm glad that Senator Golden and Jeff were able to join us and speak to the funding piece. Again, this is a relatively new program. I'm just think about what OCC can accomplish once we've been around for 12 years. It's already accomplishing a lot of amazing work. Questions about OCC?
Hillary, how many contracts? So are you in the middle of your biennium right now?
Yes.
So how many current contracts do you have for OCC funds?
We have 10. Yeah. Another distinguishing factor between OCC and the other youth workforce programs, which I'm kind of the monkey wrench in this group, because at one, I'm a squeaky wheel, and I feel like I'm getting a lot of attention because I'm a squeaky wheel. But another big difference is that these are able to be a long-term support for these young people. So a lot of programs come in and they have a $10,000 maximum cap of what can be spent on any youth. And OCC does not have a cap currently on what can be spent on youth. And our youth are earning real wages and doing real work and being paid to complete training and get certified. Whereas if they were to go through a private route, or even I think Forest Service when we were visiting Integral Youth Services last week, one of the participants said they went to join the Forest Service and were told they would have to do all of their credential training on their own, which is expensive and challenging to navigate on its own. So OCC, the investment per individual looks a lot higher than it does in any of the other Oregon Youth Works portfolio opportunities.
The investment per individual is higher. However,
Correct.
the return on that investment is exponentially much larger. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, and not to pick on Belinda, but since she has seen that real life lived experience, Belinda, could you speak to like maybe one of your youth staff that was able to get support through OCC and find some stability as well as potential career opportunities?
Absolutely. And thank you so much, Hillary. And again, Jeremy, your kind words down there and encouragement for the crew that was graduating, for the town of Chiloquin and for the intertribal crew that we've been funding here to get this work done. It's really saving lives. I can't emphasize enough that this is life-saving opportunity for these young people. They're coming with a multi-generational trauma. The Fremont-Wainema National Forest was the last forest to be designated in 1962. Klamath Tribes was reinstated in 1986. So we're talking about a really short history here of a community that got hit really hard with their economic base. And so these families are just recovering. The youth are recovering. Tribal Vice Chairman Gail Hatcher was at the graduation on the first, and we're really had an elder, Tyler Barlow, that was with us also. And this is the type of program that these communities need. There was 8 youth suicides last year. So these youth in our program have experienced 8 youth suicides. And actually Seneca, who's shown here in the PowerPoint presentation, got to go back to Washington, D.C., meet with Senator Merkley and also Deb Haaland and some other elected officials, which resulted in a proposal from us putting in for $1.3 million that will be funded probably next summer. So all our crew prior to this crew went and advocated for OCC program, and they see the whole process A to Z, from grassroots up and policy down, and also through public speaking and everything else that they're being coached to do. So it's an on-ramp camp to a natural resource career pathway. They come out with their first aid, their CPR, their incident command system certifications, their SAW training, their wildland fire training, cultural monitor training. So all of these certificates, besides their 640 hours for Public Land Corps Hiring Authority, which gives them preference in the USA Jobs system or any federal job that they would go for. It's an amazing opportunity, and it's really a rung up. Like George, one of our crew leaders, says, they're walking a little taller, they're smiling a little brighter, they have bank accounts, they have vehicles, they have their first apartment. So it's saving lives, it's changing lives, and it's doing the work that it was meant to do. So again, Hillary, thank you so much. Doug, everybody on here, and everybody else that's doing this work. It's important, and these values and these opportunities are something, and the skill sets that these are building in these youth are just going to help them throughout their whole life and career.
Yeah, thank you, Belinda, for sharing that. We were in a mid-region Youth Development Oregon meeting yesterday as well, and something that they shared there also really touched me, which is that everybody in that room, and therefore also everybody in this room, the work that we're doing through youth workforce development is life-saving work. This is upstream prevention and mental health work, because we are creating stability, bringing people together, giving them a sense of belonging, giving them a sense of purpose. And OCC is really amazing in that it helps to fill a lot of gaps that you don't see available in other opportunities.
Hillary, thank you for the outstanding share. for the work that you're doing. Belinda, thank you for that supportive additive to the storytelling. So grateful. Can I turn to the entire team? Anybody have additional questions for Hillary on OCC? Doug?
I don't have a question for Hillary necessarily, so I'll pause. I do just have something I wanted to throw out.
Okay, so any questions for Hillary on OCC? And I'm assuming, Hillary, we're okay to share the PowerPoint and information with folks
Yes.
as we see fit? All right, wonderful. Well, thank you again for the wonderful, wonderful work and for this time together. And we will be engaged more, I am sure. Doug, to you then, please.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to say too, Hillary mentioned that she's the squeaky wheel has been, and there has been a lot of spotlight on OCC, and it's because the funding isn't stable. It's non-existent at this point. I mean, if we want to be really honest, we have $0 after June 30th. We have $0 unless there's a little bit of leftovers in our account, but it won't be enough to do much with. But I really hope that that Hillary's presentation is helpful today. All of our programs have such huge impacts, and all of our programs are underfunded. All of our programs, I think Rena could probably talk about just with the OYA program, we could double it. We could ask Jeremy, and he's like, you could double our grants and folks would spend them immediately. So it's a global issue as far as sustainability long-term with all of our youth programs. Right now, OCC is in the sights and kind of circling. And so I think this was perfect timing, and with Senator Golden being able to come on and speak, and Hillary, for you to be on that same meeting to speak was perfect timing. So thank you.
Could I add one more thing? I'm so sorry. Actually, two more things. I forgot to mention, even though we don't have funding, we have launched our RFA because we are trying to avoid a funding gap if we do get funding. So I will share the link to the OCC RFA. Was I muted that whole time?
No, we got that. Just the last
Okay,
5 seconds.
great. It's like, oh, cool. So I'll share the RFA, and then I will also share with you guys a link to, if you are interested and don't have a conflict of interest in serving on the grant review team, Sydney, we will be starting to really solicit for grant reviewers for applications in November, but the grant doesn't close until February. So I will put our form for grant review interest as well in the chat.
All right, super. Smart move on the RFA. Nice.
We didn't do that last time, and it was really painful for all of our
Great
providers.
Great thing for us all to learn and know about. Awesome. Okay, if no additional questions on OCC right now, and thank you for that. Yeah, this is one of our pillar programs, so it is most definitely our body of work, and we're grateful for that. Our only remaining item on the agenda was the bylaws. And so hopefully folks have had time either prior to the meeting or at some point during the meeting just to quickly open that and scan it again. Essentially an open discussion period and a move to adopt and approve is what we're looking for right now. So are there any questions, discussions on the bylaws of the board? All right, Doug, any clarifying information you or any member of the staff wish to provide on those bylaws?
I don't think so. I will just turn to Ashley real quickly and see if there was any feedback, but I don't believe there was anything.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't receive any feedback in terms of changing anything. So from there, I feel pretty confident that we can move forward with voting on it.
Okay. If no discussion, would need to hear a motion.
So moved.
Second, please.
Second.
All those in favor of adopting the bylaws of the Oregon Youth Works Advisory Board with a virtual or physical thumb up, hand raise, or voice aloud. All right, Ashley, I see unanimous. Thank you, everybody. Okay, we are to next steps discussion, so we'll just leave it open. Has anything come up in our 2 hours together, 2 hours and 9 minutes, minus the caffeine and chocolate break? Did anybody wish us to elevate to ask for clarification? Quizzical, what might be rattling in your noggin?
I'm just curious for our in-person meeting next month. Are we thinking full days, or are we thinking a day and a half, or do we know yet?
Let's lean into Ashley and Doug on that one, please.
Yeah, I can jump in. We're kind of just wanting to put out the tickler to see if people are even available before we get too far into the weeds. We talked about maybe bringing in a contractor to do some formal team building just so we can kind of know each other a little bit better, and as we move into some potentially tough discussions about our programming in the future. At this point, I think we were hoping, or at least I was hoping, if we could do an afternoon on Thursday, and then there could be a group dinner on your own. I'm not sure what that looks like, but just time for just bonding. And then the following morning, get up, maybe have something formal, maybe not have something formal, but definitely do a site visit to get board members out to actually see some young people and see some programs that they may or may not be familiar with, and then, jet home. And I understand jetting home means something really different for Digit in Grant County than it does for me if we have it in the Willamette Valley. So we have to try to take that into consideration as well. But yeah, and I don't know if the team building, I think that's something that really I'd love to hear from all of you, and I'm sure the co-chairs would as well. If we're going to get together, if we could do maybe some of that, but maybe if we could also jump into that strategic planning and try to figure out how does the fundraising piece fit into that? How does the data fit into that? How does that all fit with the pages that Jim has shown today, 1 through 3 months and 3 through 6 months, and really set a direction for our next 4 meetings? That would be ideal, I think.
And could you confirm, Doug, the dates that we're looking at for that day and a half combo?
I will confirm Jim's buying dinner, and I don't have it off the top of my head. Ashley, do you?
Yeah, I just put it in the chat, December 12th and the 13th.
Okay. Well, no, I think y'all buying me dinner because the 12th is my birthday. So let's just seek some clarity. I'll get lunch on the 13th. How's that? But hey, wait, that's still a deal for y'all. That's y'all going in on one meal for me. That's a win-win for everybody.
I think that requires cake and a whole bunch of other things.
All right.
Can I ask just a clarifying question? Can we send updated calendar invites for those dates to show like the hold for the overnight? Otherwise, I can promise you I will forget, and then somebody will schedule something over my calendar.
Yeah, I can do that, Brooke.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Also, it might be nice to know approximate start times, just in case we need to come in the night before or something.
Yeah, I can work with Ashley, and maybe what we can do is just put together a tentative agenda, if you will, but at least it would have that framework of business starts here. Sure, absolutely.
Awesome.
And also understanding that we're talking about December 12th. We still have fires in the middle of October. We may have ice storms before December 12th. So we'll be really flexible as far as what's going on with the weather conditions and people being able to attend or not attend.
Super. Okay, does that clarity help folks overall? Great. And are we going to stick with the November 14th interim meeting? Does that feel comfortable? And this would be that'd be a shorter session, hour and 15 is what I show on my calendar. And I think we have topics. If everybody's good with that still. I'm seeing head nods.
I
Okay.
wasn't sure if Davey had a question. I saw his
Oh.
hand raised.
I missed it. I apologize. Davey?
Oh yeah, I was just wondering, I know that I think last I heard that location wasn't for that in-person meeting, wasn't finalized yet, or that it was to be discussed more, and I just didn't know if there were any new thoughts on possible location.
So totally still to be determined on what folks want to do. We thought we'd try to do it in the Willamette Valley, which is, that's a lot of miles up and down I-5. I think Eugene is something that we've talked about as a real contender, just because there's lots to do. It's easy to find lodging that has meeting rooms attached, and it's not everybody having to come to Salem, or to have to go to Portland, which are kind of the main two, it seems like, when you have these big state gatherings, that or Bend. So we talked about Eugene, totally open if folks have ideas or would, rather it go one direction rather than the other. How about you email Ashley and I in the next few days, but we do want to start getting to work on getting some reservations made.
Okay. So with that, we have moved through our agenda completely. We've had some space for some open questions. Are there any more open questions, anybody? All right. I'm going to set a personal goal of reaching out to 3 folks on the board just to talk about the things that you're doing, because everyone has inspired me, and there's a couple that I want to just make immediate contact with. So maybe in our next Zeran Forum, which will be really short because it'll be a shorter meeting, you can share who you've made contact with and the things that are starting to happen in terms of weaving our work together. Thank you everyone for the brilliant shares. Brooke, may I turn to you for any closing thoughts, and anybody else that wishes to do a shout out? Brooke?
I just want to say thank you. Great meeting from everybody. I am loving hearing what everybody else is doing. And like Jim, I'm like, oh, this could be connected to this and this and this. So I'm excited for our work moving forward.
Doug?
Just one quick a shout out to Ashley. Ashley joined us not too long ago. She was thrown to the wolves and trying to navigate the state system and what do appointed boards do, and the heck and all of it, travel, whatever. She has really done a good job, and she's learned very quickly. And the preparation for this meeting was really well done. So just a shout out to Ashley.
Awesome. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you.
And to you, Doug, for your leadership, and to all the staff, thank you, thank you. Miranda, thanks for joining us. Sydney, thanks for being a part of our team. Glad you could make it. All right, if nothing else, meeting adjourned. All right, have a wonderful day, everybody. Bye.